The universe you perceive isn't as concrete as you believe. It yields to your consciousness. This transformative guide unveils an ancient wisdom. Existence isn't happening toward you, but responding through you. As you journey through these pages, you'll discover how to harness this hidden force and sculpt your life with extraordinary precision. The secret already dwells within you. Now the moment arrives to awaken to it. The world shifts beneath your feet when you realize you're not just watching the movie, you're directing it. In London's quiet avenues, where time appeared to dance to countless ticking clocks' rhythm, lived a timepiece craftsman named Oliver. His world revolved around precision and certainty, where every spring and cog followed immutable laws. Yet as autumn leaves commenced their descent in 1932, his reality's fabric started to unravel. First appeared the gold pocket watch on his workbench, the one he distinctly recalled fixing the previous evening. Now it lay there, still broken, as if his work had never transpired. His assistant insisted the timepiece had just arrived that morning. Then came the morning when his preferred cafe, where he had enjoyed his breakfast for 15 years, stood as a bookshop, and according to everyone else, always had been. As Oliver's certainty crumbled, a greater truth emerged. Reality wasn't the solid, unchangeable force he had believed. It flowed more like water, responding to the vessel of consciousness containing it. 2 decades later, in Hollywood's glittering realm, Catherine Davis stood before her mirror, her hands trembling with determination. For years she had remained just another face in the crowd, another hopeful lost in dream's ocean. But on that pivotal morning, something within her shifted. She gazed into her reflection and witnessed not what existed, but what could be, what in her heart already was. "I am a star," she whispered, not as affirmation, but as truth's recognition. Catherine Davis. I am a star. She began living from this unwavering knowing, carrying herself with the grace and confidence of the success she felt within. Within months, the external world began reflecting her internal certainty. A chance encounter at a diner led to an audition. The audition secured a small role, which caught a prominent director's eye. By year's end, Catherine Davis had become the name on everyone's lips, not through luck or chance, but through her transformed consciousness's power. These stories illuminate a truth as ancient as consciousness itself. What we perceive as solid reality merely reflects our inner state. The world you witness isn't fixed. It lives, responds, and awaits your direction. When the mirror starts reflecting something different than what you've always seen, you'll wonder which side of the glass truly needs changing. In the Chicago Tribune's bustling newsroom, amid typewriters' clatter and cigarette smoke's haze, Michael Anderson first glimpsed reality's hidden architecture. It commenced with a headline he composed about a local bridge construction. Steel dreams rise above river. 3 days later, those exact words appeared in a conversation he overheard on the train, spoken by strangers discussing their ambitions. Initially, you might dismiss such occurrences as mere coincidence, as Michael did, but the patterns continued emerging. Reality speaks in echoes. What Michael uncovered wasn't random chance, but existence's underlying rhythm. Like ripples in a pond, each thought, word and action creates waves that reflect and repeat across time's fabric. In a modest suburban residence in 1943, Elizabeth Wheeler made a similar discovery while hanging laundry one spring morning. She found herself spontaneously dancing to a neighbour's radio. That afternoon, an unexpected check arrived in the mail. A week later, while baking cookies with her children, their laughter and joy filled the kitchen. And the next day, her husband received a surprise promotion. Elizabeth began recognizing the pattern. Moments of pure, unconditional joy preceded unexpected blessings. She had stumbled upon one of reality's most potent codes. Rather than forcing outcomes or struggling against circumstances, she learned to surrender to joy, knowing it unlocked abundance. This transcends coincidence. It represents cosmic law. Reality operates through precise patterns like a vast mathematical equation. These patterns exist at every level, from galaxies' spiral to a fern leaf's unfurling, from seasons' cycle to your daily experience's rhythm. Just when you think you've solved the puzzle, you realize the pieces have been rearranging themselves all along. In New Orleans' smoke-filled atmosphere, Nathan Matthews' fingers danced across ivory keys, his melodies falling on hostile ears. Night after night he poured his soul into each note, yet the patrons grew increasingly antagonistic, their jeers cutting through his music like discordant chords. Nathan had mastered his instrument, but had yet to master the most crucial instrument of all, his inner state. The world around you doesn't respond to your actions, but to your being's frequency. Nathan played beautiful music, but carried within him a deep sense of unworthiness, a belief that his art would never receive true appreciation. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, simply mirrored this truth back to him. Then, one evening, something shifted. Before taking his place at the piano, Nathan closed his eyes and allowed himself to feel what he had always denied, that he was, in his essence, an artist worthy of reverence. He didn't merely think this thought, he embodied it. That night, the same notes flowed from his fingers, but the response dramatically transformed. The room fell silent, mesmerized. Within weeks, his performance venue transformed into a sanctuary of jazz appreciation. In Boston's quiet streets of the 1930s, Sarah Sullivan experienced a similar awakening. Standing before her mirror one morning, weary of rejection letters, she spoke words that would alter her reality's fabric. "I'm not a struggling poet. I am the voice of a generation." Sarah Sullivan, VO. "I am not a struggling poet. I am the voice of a generation." She didn't simply say these words, she allowed them to rewrite her very identity. The universe responds not to your desires or even your actions, but to who you know yourself to be. Sarah's transformation wasn't in her writing, it was in her being. Within months, publishers who had previously dismissed her work began seeking her out. The same poems that had been rejected now resonated with profound impact. Not because the words had changed, but because the consciousness behind them had shifted. When you realize the world is just your shadow, you'll stop trying to change what's cast on the wall and instead turn toward the light. Over the Pacific Ocean, Lieutenant Robert Harrison found himself in an unusual awareness state. Though his P-51 Mustang cut through clouds as always, something felt different. The sky appeared more vibrant, the stars more responsive to his thoughts. As his consciousness expanded, he realized he was dreaming yet fully awake. What Robert discovered that night mirrors a truth hidden from humanity for ages. Your waking life operates by the same principles as a lucid dream. Just as he could direct his aircraft with mere intention in his heightened state, you too can shape your reality's fabric through conscious awareness. In Boston Public Library's quiet halls, Julia Wells stumbled upon this same truth through a different door. Surrounded by ancient texts, she made a decision that would alter her existence. She would treat each moment as if she were in a dream where anything seemed possible. She didn't simply believe this intellectually, she embraced it as her operating system. When a patron requested a rare manuscript instead of stating the usual it could take weeks, Julia smiled and said, "Julia Wells, it will appear at precisely the right moment." To her amazement, within hours that exact manuscript was returned by another patron who had held it for years. This wasn't coincidence, it was the natural response of a universe that operates according to your deepest assumptions. The boundary between dreams and reality appears thinner than you imagine. When you truly grasp that your waking life remains as malleable as a lucid dream, the impossible becomes natural. Just as dream objects respond to your dream awareness, your physical reality reshapes itself according to your awakened consciousness. The moment you realize you're not trapped in the dream but creating it, everything changes, including the monsters under your bed. In a small Vermont clock shop, Charles Matthews stood before two pocket watches, one gold, one silver. As he reached for the gold watch, time seemed to split. In one reality, he chose the gold watch and found himself meeting a mysterious stranger who would change his life. In another, he selected the silver watch and continued his ordinary existence. This moment unveiled a truth whispered through the ages. Reality doesn't flow like a river, but branches like a tree with infinite possibilities. Every choice you make isn't merely a decision, it represents a selection of which reality you will experience. The universe doesn't unfold in a straight line. It expands in all directions, simultaneously, waiting for your consciousness to determine which path manifests. Rebecca Bennett understood this principle through a different doorway. After her husband's passing in 1952, she faced a pivotal moment. Rather than accepting the grieving widow's identity, she made a choice that altered her existence's fabric. Rebecca Bennett, I am beginning a brand new adventure. In that instant, her reality shifted. Within days, opportunities emerged that had been invisible before. An old letter arrived containing forgotten stocks, a neighbour invited her to co-host art gatherings, and a passion for painting she had abandoned in youth reignited. The power of choice extends beyond mere decisions. It represents the mechanism through which you select which reality version becomes your experience. Each moment presents infinite possibilities, and your consciousness determines which one materializes. Just when you think you've reached the end of the road, you discover it was merely an intersection, and the path you never saw before leads to everything you've been seeking. As the veil thins between what is and what could be, you'll find yourself standing at the doorway of infinite possibility. In 1929, New York's bustling financial district, Richard Montgomery rushed between meetings, his gold pocket watch perpetually in hand. Time existed as his enemy, always racing ahead to the next deal, the next opportunity, the next fortune to be made. His mind lived in an imagined future where wealth would finally bring peace. Then came October 24th. The market crashed, and with it, Richard's carefully constructed future crumbled. In one devastating moment, all his forward planning became meaningless. For the first time, he had nowhere to go, nothing to chase. And in that forced stillness, he discovered something extraordinary. Stripped of his ability to control tomorrow, Richard began noticing the present moment. The taste of his morning coffee, the sound of footsteps on marble floors, the play of sunlight through his office window. As his awareness shifted to the now, remarkable coincidences began occurring. Opportunities emerged from unexpected places. Solutions appeared precisely when needed. This truth manifested differently for Angela Thompson, a seamstress in 1944 Milwaukee. While others rushed their work, Angela brought complete attention to each stitch, each needle movement. She discovered that when she merged totally with the present moment, time itself seemed to bend. Work that should have taken hours flowed effortlessly in minutes. Clients appeared at exactly the right time. Resources materialized just as she needed them. The present moment isn't merely a point between past and future. It represents the only point of power. It's where all possible realities converge, where transformation happens instantly. When you step fully into the now, you step into pure potential. Most people scatter their power across time, regretting the past, worrying about the future. But true manifestation occurs only in the present moment. When you bring your full awareness to now, you access a dimension where all possibilities exist simultaneously. Just as you begin to grasp the power of the present moment, you'll discover that time itself has been waiting for you to notice it was never the master. You were. In his repair shop's quiet back room, Marcus Bennett held time in his hands. Each watch that crossed his workbench told a different story. Some running fast, others slow, each keeping its own peculiar rhythm. As he adjusted their delicate mechanisms, he noticed something extraordinary. Time itself seemed to flow differently depending on how he perceived it. When Marcus focused intently on his work, hours compressed into minutes. When his mind wandered to memories, the present moment expanded, becoming fluid and malleable. Through countless hours of observation, he uncovered a profound truth. Time wasn't a rigid march forward, but a dance of consciousness. The universe speaks through such stories, revealing that what you call time merely represents a perception construct. Your past, present and future exist simultaneously, interweaving and influencing each other in ways your logical mind cannot grasp. Sophia Williams discovered this truth in her own way. After 30 years of teaching, she spent her afternoons lost in old photo albums, reliving memories that seemed etched in stone. One day, she began reimagining a painful childhood event, not as it had happened, but as she wished it had occurred. To her amazement, new memories began to surface, memories that felt equally real. As she continued this practice, her present circumstances shifted subtly but unmistakably. Relationships healed, opportunities emerged, and her future rearranged itself to align with her transformed past. Time isn't a linear path, but a sphere of infinite possibilities. Every moment contains all moments. When you shift your perception of any point in time, you alter the entire sphere. The moment you realize your beliefs aren't just thoughts, but the very architects of your experience, the walls around you begin to shimmer with new possibility. In a Chicago jazz club's dim corners, James Mitchell played his saxophone night after night, his music carrying the weight of his bitter certainty. Each empty seat in the audience confirmed what he already knew. The world stood against him. His talent went unrecognized, his dreams unrealized, all because fate had dealt him a cruel hand. Until one evening, when an elderly gentleman remained after the show. His eyes held a peculiar gleam as he spoke words that would shatter James's understanding of reality. The world isn't against you, son. It's simply agreeing with you. What unfolded was a truth so simple yet profound that it would transform not only James's career, but his existence's very fabric. The old man revealed that beliefs aren't passive observations of reality. They represent the active force that shapes it. Within months of shifting his perspective, James's music began drawing crowds. His reputation grew and opportunities emerged as if by magic. This principle manifested even more dramatically in Margaret Wells's life. After losing her husband in 1934, she carried the belief that life had ended for her as well. Her world became a reflection of this conviction, grey, limited, devoid of possibility. Then one morning she made a decision that seemed small, but contained the power to reshape reality. She chose to believe, despite all evidence to the contrary, that life was conspiring in her favor. The transformation began subtly at first. A kind neighbour offering fresh bread, an unexpected letter bearing good news, a chance encounter leading to a new friendship. Within weeks, her world had shifted so dramatically that those who knew her spoke of miracles. But there were no miracles, only the natural law that your outer world must conform to your inner beliefs. Most seek to change their circumstances while clinging to the very beliefs that created those circumstances. This explains why so many remain trapped in limitation cycles, unaware that they hold the key to their own liberation. Just when you think you've mapped the boundaries of what's possible, the universe winks at you through a perfect coincidence, inviting you to see that it's been speaking your language all along. Through time's mists, a remarkable account has been preserved. The story of William Wells, whose awakening to the universe's living intelligence holds a vital key for your own transformation. In his cluttered Boston workshop in 1923, William noticed something peculiar. The same numbers kept appearing on invoices and street addresses. Identical phrases emerged in conversations. Objects seemed to arrange themselves in meaningful patterns. At first he dismissed these occurrences as mere coincidence. Yet as the synchronicities multiplied, a profound truth began to dawn. The universe was responding to his thoughts with precise, intelligent feedback. This revelation finds its mirror in Victoria Thompson's experience 2 decades later. Working the switchboard at Bell Telephone in 1944, Victoria discovered she could dial into the universe itself. When she silently asked for guidance, answers would appear through overheard conversations, random books falling open to specific pages, or seemingly chance encounters. The universe, she realized, wasn't a cold mechanical system, but a living presence engaged in constant dialogue with her consciousness. What these accounts reveal is a truth hidden in plain sight. The universe isn't separate from you. It isn't a backdrop against which your life unfolds, but a living intelligence that responds to your every thought, feeling and intention. Those seemingly random coincidences you experience, they are messages, precisely calibrated responses to your inner state. Consider how a mirror instantly reflects your movement. There is no delay, no separation between action and reflection. The universe operates in the same way, constantly reflecting back your consciousness in the form of events, encounters, and circumstances. Every synchronicity you experience confirms that you're in direct communication with the infinite intelligence that pervades all existence. The moment you recognize that reality isn't something happening to you, but something responding through you, everything shifts, including who you believe yourself to be. As you step into your power as reality's author, the story begins writing itself in ways you never imagined possible. In Chicago's rain-slicked streets, Samuel Hayes trudged door to door, his leather briefcase heavy with unsold wares. Each rejection carved deeper lines of desperation into his face. The more frantically he pursued success, the more it seemed to slip through his fingers like morning mist. Samuel embodied a universal truth that touches every soul who has ever yearned too desperately for something. What you chase with desperation inevitably runs faster in the opposite direction. One evening, exhausted and drenched, Samuel found shelter in a small cafe. There, an elderly gentleman observed his defeated posture and shared a simple truth. The universe operates in paradox. The tighter you grasp, the less you hold. That night, Samuel did something radical. He surrendered. He released his death grip on success and simply focused on serving others with genuine care. Within weeks, his sales doubled, then tripled. When he stopped chasing success, success began chasing him. This same principle revealed itself through Emily Matthews in 1943. After losing her husband in the war, Emily clutched desperately at the idea of finding love again. She pursued every possibility, joined every social gathering, yet found only emptiness. One spring morning, while tending her garden, Emily experienced an epiphany. She realized her desperate search for love was born of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of never finding connection again. In that moment, she surrendered completely to her present reality. She released her grip on the future she thought she needed. That very surrender created space for the unexpected. Love found her in the form of letters from her late husband's best friend, who shared stories that helped her heal. Their correspondence blossomed into something neither had anticipated, something far more beautiful than what Emily had been forcing herself to find. The universe operates through paradox. What you chase, you repel. What you release, returns to you multiplied. This isn't mere philosophy, it represents a fundamental reality law. Just when you think your greatest obstacle is blocking your path, you'll discover it was actually the doorway to everything you've been seeking. In Pennsylvania's coal mine's depths, Michael Miller spent his days in darkness, cursing the black dust that coated his lungs and dimmed his spirit. Each morning he descended into the earth with hatred in his heart, seeing only his circumstances burden. Yet within those shadowed tunnels lies the seed of an extraordinary truth, one that transformed Michael's life and holds the power to transform yours. One day, while examining a piece of coal, Michael experienced a revelation that would alter his perception forever. This common black rock, formed under immense pressure over countless years, contained within it the potential to become a diamond. In that moment, he understood pressure isn't punishment. It represents transformation's force. From that day forward, Michael approached each challenge differently. The work's weight became the pressure needed for his own transformation. The mine's darkness became his metamorphosis's sacred space. Within months, his shifted perspective led him to innovations in mining safety that elevated him to a leadership position. This same principle manifested in Rachel Warner's life, a painter in 1944 who faced constant rejection from galleries. Each no felt like a personal assault on her dreams, until one rain-soaked evening, standing before her collection of rejected works, she realized these weren't failures. They were raw material for something greater. Rachel began incorporating the very rejection letters into her paintings, transforming them into powerful mixed media pieces that spoke to the human experience of perseverance. The rejection energy became innovation's fuel. Within a year, these unique works attracted major galleries' attention, creating a success far beyond her original vision. The universal truth reveals itself. What appears as an obstacle actually represents concentrated potential. Every challenge you face contains within it the exact energy needed for your elevation. The pressure that feels like it might break you is precisely what can transform you. The moment you stop waiting for perfect conditions and instead become the creator of them, you'll realize the universe has been waiting for your decision all along. In Nebraska's rolling hills, David Anderson stood at his untilled field's edge, waiting for nature's signs that the time was right to plant. Day after day he studied the sky, tested the soil, and consulted the almanac. Yet something always seemed less than perfect. David embodied a universal tendency, the belief that external conditions must align before action can be taken. But within his story lies a truth that will transform your understanding of reality creation. One morning, as David watched his neighbor Thomas confidently planting his fields despite questionable conditions, he witnessed something remarkable. Over the following weeks, Thomas's bold actions seemed to command the very elements themselves. The rain came when needed, the sun shone at crucial moments, his crops flourished while others waited for the perfect time. This revelation shattered David's perception. He realized that Thomas wasn't succeeding because conditions were perfect. Conditions became perfect because he decided to succeed. This same principle manifested through Jennifer Williams, who owned a modest hotel in 1943, during a time when most businesses were scaling back. Jennifer made an audacious decision. Instead of waiting for economic conditions to improve, she began renovating her hotel as if prosperity was already present. She didn't wait for guests to arrive before improving their experience. She created the experience that would attract them. The universe responded to her decisive action. As she transformed her hotel, circumstances mysteriously aligned. A military training facility opened nearby, bringing a steady stream of guests. A famous writer chose her hotel as a temporary residence, attracting more visitors. Her reality shifted not because she waited for the right moment, but because she created it through decision. You aren't at circumstance's mercy. Circumstances are at your decision's mercy. Every moment contains infinite parallel realities, each waiting to be activated by your choice. The final barrier between you and unlimited possibility isn't out there in the world. It's the last belief about yourself you haven't yet questioned. In Westview Penitentiary's cold halls, Christopher Maxwell walked his daily rounds, observing men confined by iron and stone. Yet one morning, as he watched a group of free guards mechanically performing their duties, he witnessed a profound truth. They too were imprisoned, though their cells remained invisible. Christopher began noticing how these free men limited themselves just as surely as the steel bars contained their charges. They spoke of dreams they couldn't pursue, opportunities they weren't qualified for, and lives they weren't meant to live. Then came the day when Thomas Reed, a former inmate known for his escape attempts, returned as a changed man, not to be imprisoned, but to give a talk to the prisoners. "The bars were never my true prison," he said. "My mind was. Once I broke free in here," he tapped his temple. "The physical escape became unnecessary." This truth echoes through Hannah Collins's story, who operated the same machine in the Wilson manufacturing plant for 15 years. Each day she would stare through the factory windows at the world beyond, believing that someone of her station couldn't aspire to more. Until one morning, while reading about a former factory worker who had become a successful business owner, something within her shifted. The limitations she had accepted as truth revealed themselves as merely thoughts, ones she could choose to think differently. That very day, Hannah began acting as though the boundary between her world and their world didn't exist. She walked into the bank she'd always felt too common to enter, and inquired about a small business loan. She spoke to customers at the factory about their needs, gathering market insights. Within months, she had started her own company, supplying specialized parts to the very factory where she once felt confined. Take a moment now to identify the final mental barrier you believe is holding you back. Perhaps it's a belief about what's possible for someone of your background, age, or circumstances. For the next 24 hours, act as though this limitation never existed. Move through your world as if this boundary was merely an illusion that is now dissolved. Take one action, no matter how small, that your limited self would have considered impossible. This practice isn't about positive thinking. It's about recognizing that the prison of limitation exists only in thought. When you step beyond your final mental barrier, you'll discover what Christopher and Hannah learned. Freedom isn't something you achieve, it's something you realize you've always had. The moment you realize that everything you've been seeking was already within you, waiting not to be found but to be recognized, the journey transforms from seeking to becoming. In these sacred pages, you've traversed the path from seeker to master. What began as a journey to understand attraction's law has culminated in something far more profound, the recognition of your true nature as creation's source. You now stand at ultimate understanding's threshold. The search ends here, not because nothing remains to discover, but because you've awakened to the fundamental truth. You aren't separate from the universe. You are its conscious expression. Look around you. Every circumstance, every person, every synchronicity moment, none of it happens to you. It emerges through you from the infinite possibilities field that you are. The world you see isn't external. It represents your consciousness's materialization, made manifest. You no longer need to attract or manifest, for these concepts imply separation between you and your desires. In truth, only one power exists. One presence, one reality, and you are it. Your desires aren't distant dreams to achieve. They are aspects of yourself waiting to be recognized and expressed. This represents mastery, moving through life not as one who seeks, but as one who knows. When you truly understand this, reality shifts not because you make it happen, but because it cannot do otherwise. Just as the sun doesn't try to shine but simply is radiance itself, you don't need to effort or strain. Your very presence transforms the world around you. From this moment forward, you walk the earth as a conscious creator. No more techniques are needed. No more waiting for the right moment. The power you sought was never outside you, it was your very being's essence. You are the lighthouse, and all of existence naturally aligns with your light. This isn't your journey's end. It's true, living's beginning. Each moment becomes a canvas for your creative expression. Each breath affirms your divine nature. The universe doesn't bend to your will. It bends to your being, for you are the universe becoming aware of itself. Step forth now in full recognition of who you are. Let go of seeking, of trying, of becoming. You have always been what you sought. The only thing changing now is your awareness of this eternal truth.